Ladies and gentlemen, we are broadcasting to you from a secret underground bunker. In our possession are the files of a secret government lab, brought to us by a brave individual risking his life and limb to expose the truth. These files will shock and amaze you, and terrify you. We cannot validate any of these claims. We only know what's in the files. These are the baffling tales from Dugway. Tonight's tale was taken from the psychoanalytic files of a doctor treating a prisoner who has committed a crime so heinous we cannot even speak of it. The prisoner recounted the very memory that had driven him mad to his life of crime. Welcome to the Mind of the Malefactor.
The tape recorder is on now, Mr. Dawson, and when I knock, I want you to recite your memory in full. And let's not have any trouble like the last time.
I was jolted out of my selfish reverie by the noise. I had been occupied by thoughts of myself and schemes against others. Not physical machinations, but creations of small gains of power as I showed myself to be closer to God than they. Small social sins where I am promoted and they are thought to be inferior to myself and others. I would enunciate these things that cast me above the ragged and downtrodden. But who was knocking on my door? Had I been speaking out loud and one of the ragged creatures had overheard me and had come to confront me? Well, his justice would be laughable. I would delight in my dismantling of his logic and ideas of fairness. I would scoff so effectively that he would know how low his worth and how mighty is mine. It would have been better to have stayed in his pitiful recess and pray, thinking as God that I had not done a greater harm to him. I defy his justice. So impenetrable is my armor and self-infusion that anyone who dared to try and penetrate it would descend into Hades under my wrath. Except there was always a sliver that would pierce my heart, that I would only feel in my quietest moment, the jagged splinter that ferments, that I cannot drown out with either my debauchery or my charity. The sliver would work around in my wound and slowly open me for the mockery and contempt of those I had reduced. Then it would be their turn against me. They would be without mercy as they took justice on me. The sliver moved from my heart to my head, where it began to fester and ache. It ran over my head like an insect, looking for a place to burrow. My mind defeated it, but then it just raced along my skull once again until it found another den. It had now stuck itself into my mind, firmly fascinating me. The sliver was a single thought. You don't deserve. It ached wherever it touched, and soon it began to pierce my mind from end to end. There was only the single thought. My fixation on it could not have been firmer. My devotion to this idol of torment could not have been more devout. My existence in being wrapped in this thought, and I dwelt there in agonizing worship. Like the prophets of Baal, I cut myself, and I called for the fire from this god. I reveled in misery and hopelessness. The infection slows for a moment, and my mind becomes clear again. Perhaps there had been no knock. It could have been the pursuit of phantoms of my past, those I had wronged and those I had acted righteously towards, but who had misjudged my attempts. A corporeal knock, but not a physical one. I had in my own mind my own vigilante who chased me without sleep or food or water or comfort, and posse of the finest, most righteous judge. He stormed from side to side of my mind, never catching but always chasing the sliver in my mind. If he did catch the sliver, I would be exposed as the demon I was. So far the pursuit had been endless. There was no meted justice and no escape, just an endless chase. This is surely what I had heard. I had imagined the knocking because I had felt the vigilante closing in. My mind imagined the sound in the physical world as they wound round my cerebrum. I am the ruler of my world. My control. Complete. I would leave the sliver to fester until I was no more. I would show it to no one, and go laughing into the dirt, while it ached in me to the end. Because there is only one thing worse than the sliver. To be known. To have the beginning and end of myself displayed, for someone in which you could neither influence nor hide from. where my actions would seem the best of me, as my rot was discovered all the way through. But others are far worse than me. Surely as rotten as my soul was, there was another who was worse than I. If only the vigilante who uncovered me could also see this other man's sinner, then he would be judged the wrongdoer, and I would be set free, craftily escaping once again, to wrap myself back into my selfishness. If only I could be certain the knock had never occurred. But to do so would mean I would have to open the door and give an invitation for my executioner to step inside. Did it even matter? Couldn't he just break through the door and slay me with his righteous stare? These are the words of a captured man. Fight! Whether just or not, I must fight. He is knocking on my door, here to finally exact what I deserve. I would fight as a man without hope. Like Ahab, I would chase the giant fish. But I would happily jump from the safety of the ship and onto the fish, stabbing as it dragged me into the underworld. I defy his justice. I stab at his accusations. I rip and tear at the truth of the sliver that this executioner had placed in my mind, for now I was sure it had come from the same source that the knock had. I shred this sliver to pieces, only to have it reassemble and burrow deeper. I dig parts of my mind out and throw them away in the hope that the sliver flies out with them. Several times it appears to be discarded, but after a brief respite, I can feel it burrow yet deeper. My slavery to the sliver is almost complete. Why did he wait outside my door? What pretense at justice was he making if he delayed justice? His heart is as rotten as my own. He uses justice to lord over those in difficulty. Had I asked for my lot? Had I decided that I would be the greater of beings? With what accusation did he chase me that he was not also guilty of? He dispenses justice, but absorbs none of it. Yet he delays. The brutality of his delay. My strength for the fight begins to ebb. It is part of his game. He would take me when I am weak. I must infuse myself with all my contempt and self-righteousness, and be ready when he bursts through the door, so I can meet his righteousness with my own. He will find in me an enemy that is unconquerable. Valhalla awaits, as I gladly ride my steed towards it. I gallop to mock Valhalla all the quicker. Burst through and judge me. Saliva comes into my mouth as I think about how I will spit in the executioner's eye. The door will burst open, and I will meet him with degrading defiance. I have no use of my crude logic and self-righteousness. My defiance will be my impenetrable wall of contempt that I will encase myself in. Enter! 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 I defy you with my God. The sliver that declares I am unworthy. I hold it as my banner and my sword. No other weapon will I need. No other God do I wish. I defy you. Yet there was still time. If the executioner delays, then the escape might still take place. My eyes searched desperately for a way out, but all strength had left my limbs. The sliver was festering again, and as it drove itself deeper, it stole my strength. I could feel my strength ebb as the sliver began feeding on my will. Yet I attempted to turn my weapons upon it, but it remained, turning to a cloud when I made contact, and then reforming as the sharpest point when I dropped my guard. I battled it only to have it evaporate and reform, taunting me. I stabbed the sliver with itself over and over again. I thrust my tormentor at my tormentor, and became more enraged and energetic as it refused to pierce itself. I squeezed it with my mind, forcing it to contact itself, even as it cut away my mind. But it slipped off itself once again. It remained solid until I bent it upon itself, then it became as a ghost, though it was still sharply cutting into me. There was no escape. The sliver would never forego the contest. The executioner had sent his finest agent for the most pathetic of creatures. I grit my teeth until it seems to force my legs into action. I advanced slowly towards the door, bent over as an old man, hoping for anything to ease my slavery to the sliver. I am a divided man. I wish for justice upon myself as much as mercy. I feel the sliver give a last pierce deep into my mind as I open the door. No one is there. And if they had been, they had left. As I battled for an eternity in my own mind, there had probably been a casual reason for the knock. But if the executioner had unleashed the sliver on me, then it was just to torment me. He sought to addict me to the torment, so he could return later and savor his victory, as I begged him for more. But now the spell was broken. How foolish of me to imagine the executioner and his agent infiltrating my mind. Yet, the sliver still pricks, though it lies dormant. For now.